He turned to ask the other two, "What do you think?" Ningxi stroked his chin, thought for a moment, and guessed 800 at most. To create excitement, she said, 830. My expectations for him are quite high. On this side, Lin Ke unbuttoned his shirt cuffs. The gray-haired boy asked, "Are you ready?" Lin Ke raised his hand and signaled, "Okay, I'm ready." The boy briefed him a bit about the rules of the game. In the first minute, there's a shot every 4 seconds. Then, every 30 seconds, the interval will shorten by 1 second. Let's start now. As soon as he finished speaking, the first tennis ball was fired out. Lin Ke saw this and leaned to one side to dodge. The ball hit the ceiling and then fell to the ground. Next, the second ball flew towards him. He bent down low to avoid these balls, but Lin Ke was incredibly agile. His movements were all displayed naturally. Liu Han offered a bit of praise. He's doing well. That's over 400 balls now. The level of his movements hasn't changed much. Truly impressive. Yu Yulu reminded, "Boss, calm down a bit. We're only at frequency 1.5 seconds. She lowered her voice and added, "Many people can reach this level. The main thing is whether he can keep it up." The tennis balls were continuously shot out from the 603rd to the 758th. Lin Ke was still able to move quickly to dodge them. Liu Han was left speechless by the scene. It's really rare for someone to go from 0 to this level. The 950th ball, then the 1000th ball. At that moment, not only Liu Han, but even Chu Yulu couldn't believe her eyes. How is this possible? The balls being launched were still increasing, reaching 1398 to 1400. The gray-haired man was so excited that he clenched his fist and shouted, "I surpassed Wang Guan, #1 in history." Cao Jiadu stroked his chin as he assessed Lin Ke. Looking at his condition, he was slightly out of breath just now, but his level of movement hadn't changed much. He could probably still persist. They looked at the board above their heads, and the number had reached 1560. It was finally over, and Lin Ke also stopped. The gray-haired man was taken aback by this record. They actually managed to hit 1,600 balls. Lin Ke asked him indifferently, "Is that it? Do we have to continue later?" He quickly waved his hand and shook his head. "No need. It's done." Seeing him like that, Lin Ke picked up his jacket and draped it over his shoulder. Then he turned his head and asked one last time, "If there's nothing else, I'll leave now. Tomorrow will still be at 9 o'clock, right?" Then he waved goodbye. "See you tomorrow." Cao Jiadu excitedly said, "Mr. Liu, this time you found a treasure. You must train him properly. He definitely won't have a bad future." Liu Han agreed. "I think so too. I'm a bit eager already." Lin Ke walked out from inside. As he passed by a red car, he saw a man smoking a cigarette. Lin Ke turned his head to look at him. The man leaning against the red car was Qin Yanling, Qiu Yulu's boyfriend. When he saw Lin Ke looking at him, he instinctively looked back up. But at that moment, Lin Ke had opened the car door and was about to get in. Qin Yanling waited for a moment and then saw Qiu Yulu walking out. He ran over to her and called Yulu. Qiu Yulu closed her eyes and ignored him. Qin Yanling anxiously explained, "Yulu, don't be angry anymore. Something suddenly happened at home yesterday. Someone said they saw my aunt and the family had to hold a meeting, so they wouldn't let me go. Otherwise, it would have been difficult for you to come back. How could I possibly stand you up?" Qiu Yulu was taken aback. She touched her chin and then voiced her guess. "It's a person named Qin Yingyu." Qin Yanling recalled Qin Yingyu's face and said, "That's right, it was her. After so many years, she suddenly appeared in Yanjing." He then took Yu Lu's hand and said, "If it were for this matter, I wouldn't have been unable to find you." Yu Lu coldly replied, "This time I will forgive you. I have to go deal with the training report today, so come find me tomorrow." At a restaurant in Yanjing, Lin Ke opened the door and stepped in. Ru Yu and Shu Yi were sitting there waiting for him. As soon as she saw him enter, Ru Yu waved and called out to him. Lin Ke walked over to the dining table to greet Shu Yi. Then he asked Ru Yu, "Why did you come to Yanjing all of a sudden? Just now when I received your call, I was taken aback. Isn't it very busy in Shanghai?" Ru Yu frowned and said, "You still dare to say that. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have come back here." Then she turned to Shu Yi and said, "Last night's incident made you famous. If it weren't for my mother stepping in to help you fix things, you would have been in serious trouble." Lin Ke replied, "I knew those people wouldn't be as straightforward as that. I was surprised my guess turned out to be right." Curious, Shu Yi asked Lin Ke, "What is your reason for attacking them? I guess you know for sure the consequences of this, which is why you took action. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done it." Lin Ke smiled and responded, "It's not as exaggerated as people think. It was indeed a bit over the top at that time. Plus, the Zalmo group has been looking for trouble for a long time, so I got annoyed and decided to hit them." Hearing him say that, Shu Yi smiled. After a moment of thought, she decided to ask Lin Ke about his biological parents and whether he resented them. Lin Ke was very surprised when the lady suddenly asked that. He awkwardly smiled and replied, "How could it be? I shine warmly like this." Inside, he felt a bit troubled, but he still smiled and said to Shu Yi, "It's already a thing to be thankful for that they brought me into this world. It just doesn't mean they have an obligation to raise me, so there's nothing to hate." Shu Yi asked him again, "Aren't you planning to find them?" Lin Ke set his cup down and said, "It's been over 20 years. It's not something you can just go look for." His expression showed a bit of sadness. He continued, "Besides, I guess they must have their own lives by now. But I still hope they are healthy and live well, each in their own place." Shu Yi smiled and told him, "It's good to think like that." Then she picked a piece of meat for him and told him to try it. Lin Ke thanked Shu Yi and happily enjoyed the meal. An hour later, after finishing his meal, Lin Ke drove back. Ru Yu and Shu Yi went outside to see him off. After that, the two returned to the restaurant. Yin Yu, sitting at a table behind, came out and looked at Shu Yi with affectionate eyes. Shu Yi asked Yin Yu, "How do you feel?" She emotionally replied, "As long as Lin Ke doesn't hate me, I am content." Shu Yi then said, "Everyone says I resemble my mother, and they are absolutely right." Then she smiled and told Yin Yu, "Lin Ke has a gentleness in his bones, just like Yin Yu." On the second day at the training camp, as soon as Lin Ke arrived, a bothersome brown-haired guy stared at him. He turned to his friend and said, "Look, that kiddo is back again." The green-haired guy openly expressed his disdain. "Wasn't he chased away by team leader Q? Why is he here again today? If it were me, I definitely wouldn't have the face to come back and make a fool of myself." Yulu approached with a serious expression, followed by Tao Cheng and Ning She. As soon as she saw Lin Ke, Yulu showed her dislike openly. The brown-haired guy smiled smugly at this. "Look at team leader Q's face. It seems very bad, always staring at him." Suddenly, Tao Cheng shouted, "Everyone come over and get ready to assemble." After everyone was gathered, he said seriously, "The three events that will be tested today are squats, deadlifts, and bench presses. The standard weights for men are squat 200 kilograms, deadlift 150 kilograms, and bench press 140 kilograms. These are the contents of today's training session. Now follow me into the hall." Is that clear to everyone? Everyone shouted in unison, "We can hear you clearly." Lin Ke thought to himself, "It seems that the training here is not a scam, very straightforward." In the training room, Tao Cheng handed Lin Ke his numbered badge. Lin Ke looked at the number and asked in confusion, "Am I the last one?" Tao Cheng disdainfully replied, "Yesterday, you were the last one to come back. The others have all finished." Then Tao Cheng shouted, "The inspection will start right now." One by one, everyone went up for inspection. They were all out of breath. Some were even trembling as they tried to lift the weights. A few struggled so much with the heavy weights that they had to stick their tongues out like dogs to breathe. Lin Ke calmly stood by and watched them struggle. The guy with green hair seemed to be quite strong as well. After finishing his workout, he put the weights away. The guy with brown hair ran over and said, "Brother Fai, you're just too freakish. You were just a bit short of breaking a record." He was panting, but still turned to the brown-haired guy and said, "Your level isn't bad either. Just give it your all later. As long as you can score an average of 10, that would already be considered not bad." As for Lin Ke, while he was standing and watching everyone, Tao Cheng turned to him and said, "This is the last brew. Warm up now. Get ready to go up there." When it was Lin Ke's turn, he finished warming up and walked towards the weights. He turned to Tao Cheng and asked, "What were the records for the training events just now?" Tao Cheng quickly flipped through the pages and replied, "Squats 14, hard pulls 8, bent press 16. Then he said, "If you're ready, let's get started." Lin Ke replied, "I know," and then began to take a breath. Immediately, Lin Ke placed the weight behind his shoulders and began squatting with very proper form. With each squat, he adjusted his breathing very evenly. Tao Cheng counted each of his squats surprised, 11, 12, 15. After completing 20 squats, Lin Ke stopped. He dropped the weights and turned to say, "Quickly start the next event." Seeing this, Tao Cheng asked, "You clearly still have energy. Why would you continue?" Lin Ke calmly replied, "The records for the three events are all under 20. I've done enough to rank first, so it seems unnecessary to continue." Suddenly, Lu Hong appeared and asked, "What was Wang Guan's record back then?" Tao Cheng flipped to the evaluation paper again. Squats 26, deadlifts 29, bench press 29. After that, Lu Hong told Lin Ke to continue. He said irritably, "I have even higher records. If Lin Ke can achieve 30, then it's considered meeting the target." Lin Ke sighed in agreement and continued squatting. After a while, Lin Ke had completed exactly 30 squats. Everyone looked at him hesitantly. The guy with blue hair thought to himself, Could it be that he is naturally strange? Yu Lu admired and said, "It's just a single event score surpassing Wang Guan, nothing special. There are still 2 more events to go." Ning Yu, seeing that Yu Lu still looked down on Lin Ke, said with a smile, "Someone like you is really a tough-tongued boiled duck. With such a high squat score, do you really think he will be weak?" Cao Cheng urged Lin Ke to quickly start the next event. Lin Ke moved forward and tightly grasped the weight. In the training room, Tao Chen watched Lin Ke lift weights in confusion, counting the number of times he performed: 20, 27, 29, 30. The brown-haired guy was stunned, his mouth agape. Is this person a monster? In the last exercise, Lin Ke also excellently completed 30 reps. Tao Cheng said a bit annoyed, completed 30 bench presses. Lin Ke smiled and asked him, "The training session for today should be over, right?" Tao Cheng, confused, said, "Yes, it's over." After that, Lin Ke put on a suit and turned to leave. He said, "If I'm still the last one the next day, I won't arrive early. I'll come at noon." With that, Lin Ke walked straight out the door. Yu Lu looked at him suspiciously. Lin Ke has lived in the orphanage since he was a child, and last year he erupted into business, but how did he manage to have such a good foundation? Could it be that there are really geniuses in this world? After completing the training session, Yuan Hao punched the punching bag, wondering where Lin Ke had come from, ruining his good prospects. Just then, a green-haired guy passed by and asked Yuan Hao, "Why are you suddenly angry? Did someone provoke you?" Yuan Hao unhappily turned to the green-haired guy and said, "Based on the results from yesterday and today, after calculations, I can barely make it to rank 12 and qualify for the organization." He gritted his teeth, recalling Lin Ke's smug face, and said angrily, "That guy is here now. I can't get in anymore." The green-haired guy then asked what Yuan Hao planned to do. "Are you thinking of secretly sabotaging Lin Ke?" The brown-haired guy suddenly interjected, "I was thinking maybe we could give him some money and ask him to drop out of training. He doesn't seem to come from a wealthy family, so this could be my chance." Yuan Hao found it reasonable and agreed. After that, he took out a cigarette to change his mood. Yuan Hao said he would go home to study more. At the hot spring shop, Ru Yu was on her way there. Suddenly, someone hugged her from behind. It turned out to be Lin Ke. Ru Yu jumped and turned to look at him, smiling and saying, "With my status coming here, is not very appropriate, is it?" Lin Ke said, "Wear a mask and no one will recognize you." Then he excitedly said, "Today I will take you to experience something so you can know what enjoyment is." Ru Yu immediately replied, "Every time this topic comes up, you get excited. Earning tens of billions doesn't make you this way." Lin Ke then justified himself, "Money is just an exterior. Only my talent can elevate your soul." Then Lin Ke told Ru Yu, "Trust me, I will show you what pink memories are." As soon as they entered the shop, the manager came out to greet them. She smiled and said, "Hello. Do you need to book this place entirely?" Ru Yu agreed. After that, the manager said, "I will arrange the location right now. Please follow me." Lin Ke leaned into Ru Yu's ear and teased, "Didn't you say wearing a mask would mean no one would recognize you?" Ru Yu could only smile. 2 people entered the hot tub and began to soak. Lin Ke glanced at her continuously and asked, "What kind of heavenly treatment is this? You just arrived and already want to take over everything here." Ru Yu smiled and replied, "I've resolved everything on my end." Then she asked, "When are you going back to TH Nation?" Lin Ke answered, "Probably in a few days. You want to go back with me? When the time comes, I'll let you experience my private jet." Ru Yu turned her head and boldly said, "I wouldn't want to." Lin Ke suddenly stood up and said, "Let me give Ru Yu a massage so she can truly relax a bit." Then Lin Ke began to massage her. Suddenly, he reached his hand around Ru Yu's back. Caught off guard, she let out a soft gasp. In the training center building, there were countless rooms to meet everyone's needs. In one training room, Lin Ke walked in under everyone's gaze. Yuan Hao stood beside a woman. Tao Cheng stood between the two, spreading his arms to introduce. "Everyone is here, right? Today, you will do the final test. But don't be nervous, this test just requires some thinking." Yu Lu placed her hands on her hips with a stern expression and commanding attitude, said, "Please take out your pens and paper. The test is about to begin." Tao Cheng pointed to the question and said to everyone, "Please look at question number 1. Question number 1 is a math problem titled, 'There are 100 pairs of twins, in which there is one baby boy, and the rest are baby girls. What is the probability that the next baby is a boy?'" Lin Ke placed his hand on his chin, thinking seriously. He frowned, then quickly took a pen to fill out the prepared blank paper. Tao Cheng continued to turn the board and said, "The second question is to assume that 3 sheets of A4 paper are 3 doors. Behind one door, there are some goats. Now I invite a student to choose a door to see if there is a car behind that door." A man raised his finger number 1, but said, "I'd choose number 2. Tao Cheng immediately raised his hand, tore off paper number 2 with a ripping sound. Seeing the letters stuck tightly on the board after tearing paper number 2, it said goat. Tao Cheng turned to everyone and said, "Now you will guess. What is the probability of a car behind door number 3? Suddenly, Tao Cheng felt a little tense, raised his hand, and continued. "You all have 1 minute to answer the question. After that, you can submit the A4 paper here." Some people focused on their papers, thinking with a difficult expression, while others looked around confused. Only Lin Ke had a confident attitude, continuously writing on his paper. Tao Cheng looked at his watch and said, "1 minute is up." Yu Lu was the one collecting everyone's answer sheets. The attitudes of the participants when submitting their papers were also very different. Some were eager to finish the test and submitted quickly, while others were slow, turning in their papers later to think of a few more answers. Liu Hong suggested to Yu Lu and Tao Cheng, "I remember from your year, it seems like only Wang Guan answered 1 question correctly, while the rest got them all wrong. Let's check Lin Ke's answers first to see how many he got right." Tao Cheng was the one who flipped through the stack of answer sheets to find Lin Ke's. Holding up the sheet and looking at it, he was slightly surprised, frowned, and said, "They're all correct. The probability of the first question is 1 in 3, and the second is also 1 in 3. Liu Hong happily said, "He really didn't disappoint me. He's managed to get them all right." Yu Lu held a few answer sheets in her hands and somewhat disagreed, saying, "Boss, don't be too quick to celebrate. It could just be random guesses that turned out to be correct." Tao Cheng placed Lin Ke's score sheet at the front and then lifted his head to announce, "In this assessment, 28 people scored 0. Number 5, Du Qin. Number 9, Dong Sin Peng. And number 25, Mei Su Yang, scored 1 point. While number 36, Lin Ke, achieved 2 points. Everyone was buzzing and whispering behind. Yuan Hao couldn't believe Lin Ke's results and asked, "Did he answer everything correctly?" Tao Cheng replied happily, "Yes, he is the only one who answered 2 questions correctly. These are 2 logic reasoning questions that are very easy for everyone to answer incorrectly." He continued, "Lin Ke, could you share your thought process and explain how you arrived at these 2 answers?" Lin Ke generously said, "I will share my thoughts. To say that there is a boy, we can eliminate 25 families with 2 daughters. At that point, the probability that the other child is a boy is 25 out of 75, which is 1 out of 3. Tao Cheng joyfully said, "This calculation process is completely correct. What about the second question?" Lin Ke approached the board, pointing at it and explaining, "This is quite simple. In total, there are 3 doors. Besides the car, the other 2 doors are goats." He opened the door with the goat and continued, "Then of the 2 remaining doors, there is only 1 with a goat, but its probability does not change. So the answer is still 1/3. Therefore, the probability of winning the card is 1/3. Liu Hong was very impressed with Lin Ke's confident performance and stepped forward to applaud him. "You are amazing. That makes sense, really not bad." Everyone else also gathered around to praise him with a round of applause. The sun was high in the sky, shining on the windows of the base. A voice echoed, "That's enough. The trial training session has ended. The top 12 will be selected to join the organization based on everyone's overall results. Thank you for your efforts over these past few days. Now you may disperse." Qin Yanling and Yu Lu had made plans together. Yanling came to pick up Yu Lu and said, "The trial training is over, right? I made a reservation at a 3-star restaurant. Let's go have a bite." Qin Yanling raised her hand to invite Yu Lu into the car. Upon hearing this, she walked over, said, and then the car door closed. The luxurious car began to roll away. In the car, Yanling saw her sitting silently in the back seat and turned to ask, "Why are you so gloomy? What are you thinking? Can't you get over him yet?" She thought about him, frowned, and replied, "No, he has been assigned to the second team." Yanling continued to ask, "Mr. Liu values talent highly. It's understandable that he would do that. With all the people he has hit, his piece is almost over. Thinking like that, are you feeling a bit better?" Yu Lu sat cross-legged with her arms folded, looking a bit annoyed. She said, "What's there to be happy about? Lin Ke has a lot of potential. If that's the case, being removed from the organization is also a loss." Yanling frowned and glanced at Yu Lu, growling, "I'm trying to help him." She replied tersely, "Not at all." One hand pressed against the car window, she looked outside and said, "I'm just expressing my thoughts." Hearing this, Yanling felt even more irritated. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel, suppressing his anger. In a luxurious high-rise building, Lin Ke was taking a walk with Liang Ruyu. His face was expressionless as he asked her, "What are we doing here? Do you need to buy something?" She replied excitedly, "No. Tomorrow we will participate in the Semiconductor Summit Forum," she added. "Haven't you bought a suit yet, right?" let's go buy one. He even seemed to take it seriously, casually saying, is it really necessary to be so formal? It's just a conference. Ru Yu, with a friendly demeanor, linked her arm with his and replied, this conference requires wearing suits. Besides, you're sitting in the front row. You have to dress up. The two of them went to a luxury store. The saleswoman greeted them politely. Hello, welcome to browse. Ru Yu quickly spotted a standout suit from the store hanging on the rack. She pointed at it and said, I think that blue suit looks great. What do you think? The saleswoman smiled brightly, giving a thumbs up. The aesthetic sense of the beautiful lady is truly excellent. This one is hand-tailored and it will definitely look great on him. Ru Yu decided, then take it. There's a white shirt over there, take that too. Without a second thought, she finalized her purchase, pointing at an expensive white shirt displayed on a luxurious cabinet, signaling for the saleswoman to fetch it. The saleswoman beside her smiled and immediately went to get it. She skillfully and gently took down the suit, politely asking, please wait a moment. Do you need to try it on? She excitedly handed the suit to Lin Ke. He replied, of course. After a long while, the fitting room door opened. Lin Ke stepped out looking elegant, and he truly seemed to shine in the suit. In fact, he resembled a wealthy gentleman, handsome, and the dream of countless girls who wished to be his wife. Ru Yu and the staff member couldn't help but stare in amazement when they saw him like that, with eyes wide open and mouths agape. The staff member was filled with hearts at that moment, unable to resist exclaiming, he truly is an exceptionally handsome coat rack. Ru Yu beside her remained silent, her mouth open. She was so astonished by his attractiveness that she couldn't utter a word. After putting on his suit, Lin Ke stood admiring himself in the mirror for a long time, preparing to look sharp. Suddenly, Ru Yu squatted down next to his long legs, her delicate hands slowly adjusting the cuffs of his pants. Lin Ke was startled and looked at the girl in front of him, who remained focused, and he spoke up, you. She continued her task while gently explaining, the pants are a bit long, Lin Ke. Witnessing this scene, he suddenly felt guilty. Rubbing the back of his head awkwardly, he mumbled to himself, it's embarrassing that a young lady from the Liang family is rolling up my pants. After a while, when she was finished, Ru Yu stood up, took a look around, and evaluated. I think it looks good. The young lady turned to leave, waving goodbye to her boyfriend, and did not forget to remind him, wait for me, I'm going to pay. In Lin Ke's heart, he felt as joyful as if he were celebrating the spring festival, with flowers blooming all around, so much so that he couldn't hide his delighted smile. The feeling of a woman paying for him is just too happy. The handsome couple left the store hand in hand, strolling down the street. In the distance, Han Renping and his brothers were observing them from inside the car. His gaze was filled with hatred. Renping turned to speak to the person next to him. Brother Chang, I've already told you the specifics. The person I want to deal with is the man who just walked out. Lai Sai-kan, the thug in the area, lifted his eyelids and looking at his face, could clearly see the nature of a violent person. Sai-kan quickly replied, I see. Han Renping's face was covered in scars and bandages, giving him an unwell appearance. Cautiously, Renping reminded him, but you must remember not to touch the woman by his side. If they are together, don't act unless he is alone. Sai-kan quickly opened the car door, carrying a toolbox. He even reassured the other person, no problem, just prepare the money. Hu Chang'an, who had been sitting in the passenger seat listening the whole time, also turned to ask Renping, is everything arranged? There shouldn't be any issues, right? Upon hearing this, Renping smiled wickedly. His eyes gleamed with unpredictable malice, and he replied eagerly, Lai Sai-kang is not like us. He is someone who has really killed before. With him dealing with Lin Ke, there will be no mistakes. On this side, Lin Ke was loading the shopping into the trunk. After finishing, he quickly asked for Liang Ru Yu's opinion, but she was lost in admiration, looking at him. It's time. How about we go watch a movie later, he suggested. Recently, it seemed there were many movies showing. She did not refuse, her expression much brighter than before. That sounds good. You go buy drinks and snacks and I'll go get the tickets. But as soon as she turned around, he asked again, what do you want to eat? The beautiful girl was silent, pondering for a long time as if she was thinking about something. After a while, she replied, there's tanglu up ahead. I suddenly really want to eat it. Instantly, Lin Ke's mood dropped dramatically. He twitched his lips, wanting to confirm, tanglu? Liang Ru Yu smiled cheerfully. I will eat strawberries. Go buy one for me. Then she quickly left for the ticket counter. 20 minutes later, the sun shone bright on the glass high-rise. The young lady Liang stood there, arms crossed, questioning her boyfriend. It took so long just to buy one stick of tangaloo. Did you meet some pretty girl on the way and flirt? Lin Ke hurriedly ran over, holding out the candy, trying to placate her. No one on the road can compare to you. Ru Yu couldn't stand this flattery, pouting and playfully scolding. You only know how to sweet talk. Her arm quickly draped over his shoulder. Let's go, the movie starts in 2 minutes. The couple strolled towards the theater, completely absorbed in each other. Dozens of seats around, but it felt like only the two of them existed, creating an unparalleled private space. Suddenly, Liang Ru-yu turned to Lin Ke and whispered, "I don't drink coffee. I would eat tangulu." Mr. Lin was very attentive to his girlfriend. He brought the food to her mouth and didn't forget to describe the enticing flavors. "This tangulu is best eaten when you lick it. It has a special taste." She took it, like a little cat, carefully licking the sugary coating on the outside. Just a glance later, his face turned as red as if he had a fever, seemingly unable to bear it. Lin Ke swore and reminded her, "This is a movie theater, don't tempt me." The beauty was chewing on the tangulu when she suddenly bit into something. Her face scrunched up, and she let out a soft cry. "Aya." He casually tilted his head to one side, observing and asking, "What's wrong?" Liang Ru-yu rubbed her cheek, sadly lamenting, "I bit down hard." She sensed something in her mouth, worried, and spat it into her palm. "There's something in this tangulu." She stared intently at it, a large sparkling diamond ring sitting there quietly. Lin Ke looked at her with affection and teased, "Why is there a ring in the tangulu?" Today his words were quite playful. The delicate white palm, Ru-yu mischievously glanced at her boyfriend and happily exposed his trick. "You're still pretending. You must have placed it there." As soon as she finished speaking, Lin Ke carefully took the item. One hand lifted her small hand, and with the other, he gently slipped it onto her ring finger. In surprise, she felt the ring fit just right. Lady Liang delightedly admired the large diamond, filled with happiness as she exclaimed, "It's so beautiful." The girl sweetly linked arms with Lin Ke, looking extremely intimate. She was so happy that her eyes squinted as she rested her head on the boy's shoulder, and in his eyes it seemed like there was only her. After a blissful time until late at night, Lin Ke's car took her back to the Liang family gate. Ru-yu got out of the car, reluctantly saying goodbye. "I'm going home now. Drive slowly." Lin Ke sat in the car, watching her walk into the house to reassure Liang Ru-yu. He did not forget to comfort her. "Don't worry, I've been a driver for a long time." With that, he drove away after seeing his girlfriend enter the house. With his own keen sense, how could Lin Ke not realize he was being followed? He glanced in the rearview mirror, carefully observing the car behind him, silently thinking, since leaving the cinema, that car has always followed mine. Up until now, it is still patiently tailing me. The young man's face changed color, filled with excitement and enthusiasm. He waited for them to approach, a sinister smile spreading across his face. "Looks like there's something to do today." Soon after, both sides stopped at the luxurious Manhwa Hotel. The door of Lin Ke's room suddenly shifted. Lai Sai-kang cautiously cracked the door open. He held a gun in his hand, his eyes scanning the interior carefully. Seeing Lin Ke sitting still in the chair, he immediately aimed the gun at him and shouted, "Don't move." Lin Ke showed no fear whatsoever. In fact, he boldly looked at the man with the weapon, wanting to intimidate him while inquiring, "Who sent you here?" Lai Sai-kang's hand did not shake as he watched Lin Ke. Not only was he not frightened, but he also calmly interrogated, "You knew I would come here." Lin Ke silently observed each movement of the thug while replying, "After finishing my meal, I saw him outside, so I left the door open for him. Tell me who sent you." However, Brother Chai not only ignored him, but also smiled slyly. "I'm not here to negotiate with you. Someone is willing to buy your legs for $1 million. Sorry." Lin Ke was still trying to extract information about the person behind this. "I gave you the chance to reveal who is behind this, but it seems you didn't grasp it." Its beautiful hand slowly picked up a small knife from the table. The expression of the young man suddenly darkened, full of intimidation. Gently, he threw the small knife in the blink of an eye. Sai-kang was caught off guard. The knife grazed his hand, and blood spattered everywhere. The gun also fell as a result. He unexpectedly let out a shout, looking at the deep cut on the back of his hand. The thug was furious. He quickly turned and ran towards the door in a very awkward manner, not forgetting to deceive those in the room with great anger. Lin Ke unexpectedly gained momentum, jumped up, and accurately kicked from behind. Sai-kang screamed, grimacing. Just like that, he fell flat on the ground. Lin Ke took advantage of the situation, quickly grabbing the opponent's wrist and twisting it backward. Sai-kang was thus immobilized on the floor. Lin Ke quietly asked once more, "Tell me who sent you here." But perhaps due to years of experience in the underworld, he remained extremely tough and stubbornly resisted. "I have principles. I won't say anything." He was tough talking, but it couldn't match Lin Ke's ruthlessness. Without saying a word, he directly broke the opponent's wrist. At that moment, Lai Sai-kang was in so much pain that he cried out in agony, his mouth open and tongue lolling out, looking extremely ugly. "Oh!" After a while of interrogation, Lin Ke returned to his seat. Looking at the thug writhing in pain on the floor, he casually threatened, "You think I'm an ordinary person who can't do anything when this kind of thing happens?" Upon hearing this, his entire body broke out in a cold sweat. Cough, cough, cough. As Sai Kang attempted to fight back, he shouted and knelt down. One hand tightly held the bleeding wrist, his body drenched in sweat, face twisted in pain, eyes pleading. "Call the police, let them arrest me." Lin Ke, with a delighted expression, held a sharp knife in his hand, ready to get to work. He looked like a psychotic killer at that moment, enough to make anyone shudder in fear. He said he wanted to join like that. It seems he won't be able to do anything in there, right? "If that's the case, I should handle it myself," Lin Ke said. Lai Sai Kang was frightened upon hearing this, trembling all over. His forehead was drenched in sweat. He obediently revealed the mastermind's name. "It was Han Renping who sent me here." The next day, in a magnificent and luxurious high-rise building, people were attending a party. The sound of laughter and conversation filled the hall. Lin Ke and An Shen sat in a quiet corner, enjoying themselves. "Are you sure you don't want to talk more with others?" An Shen asked, lifting her cup of tea. For many people, this was a good opportunity to network and expand business relations. That's why An Shen asked him to consider it. Lin Ke was playing a game on his phone, seeming to find networking unnecessary. "No need. I don't think it's meaningful. The future of the semiconductor industry is not in their hands." An Shen looked at him in surprise, bewildered. "Why do you say that?" He glanced at those who were happily drinking and chatting in the distance and explained, "Because they only focus on Lai Yi. They won't be able to see what the future holds." "Then maybe you think the future of the semiconductor industry is in the hands of?" An Shen asked curiously, while Lin Ke maintained his focus on the game. He proudly thumbs himself, smiling as he says, "The youngest generation, summed up, is in the hands of Gen Z." He continues, "During this time, I have invested 58.3 billion. On average, it will lose nearly 200 million a day." An Shen, sitting beside him, nods, listening intently to his confident tone. "I guess among those present here, who would dare to break like that?" Still a bit confused, she stroked her chin and asked him, "So, do you feel the future of the semiconductor industry is in the hands of the young?" "That's right," he affirms. He continues, "Because capitalists are all discussing money. Only those who are exploited talk about warm emotions. I have invested in over 40 companies related to semiconductors. In less than 10 years, the future of the semiconductor industry will be in my hands." He smiles smugly at his actions. An Shen gently compliments him. "You fool, you want to monopolize this industry. I guess in the future you will arrange to take the Lang Yun Group public, but you won't allow foreign investment." Lin Ke laughs, casually raising 3 fingers and says, "An Shen is still smart. I have prepared 30% of the shares for your group without taking a single penny." An Shen's eyes widened in astonishment at his words. She was thrilled and gently said, "Kiddo, you are truly brilliant. You want to use these shares to buy protection, and that's me." Lin Ke smiled widely when praised. "Thank you, An Shen, you flatter me." She looked at Lin Ke with an approving gaze, secretly thinking, this kiddo's intelligence surpasses even that of his father back then. Lin Ke covered his mouth, whispering to An Shen, Look at the people sitting in front. They all look like they are dead. Just their expressions alone make it seem like they are at a funeral." Indeed, the people in the front row all wore heavy expressions of sorrow. Fatigue was evident on their faces, and everyone seemed troubled. An Shen frowned and said, "Even if it were a funeral, it wouldn't escape being related to you." Lin Ke looked confused and asked, "Related to me?" An Shen's expression became serious, and she emphasized, "There are more than 10 families here that you handled that night. Do you think they can have any cheerful expressions?" Looking at the people in front, they all frowned, deep in thought, then sighed heavily. Lin Ke awkwardly rubbed his head. "If I had known, I wouldn't have come. I've made everyone unhappy." An Shen folded her arms and pointed toward a woman. The 7th person to the right is a woman with gray hair, a slim and attractive face. She wears sunglasses that cover almost half of her face. Her name is Wang Dongqing, mother of Zhao Mo. An Shen continued to introduce. The woman to her right is named Fu Yahe. Han Renping was severely injured by her daughter. Sitting behind her is her husband, Han Jinlei. A man wearing glasses with his hair slicked back looked very neat. Lin Ke next to me coldly remarked, "She looks exactly like her. Wang Dongqing is not appealing at all." On the stage, someone stood up to speak, his voice loud and clear. "Leaders, the 3rd Semiconductor Summit officially begins." An Shen beside me cautioned, "Lin Ke, all right, pay attention while talking. The conference has started." The woman Fu Yahe turned around with a heavy expression and said to her husband, "Shen Shu Yi has already brought him to attend the conference. We cannot touch him." Han Jinli frowned and crossed his arms. "I don't want to get physical, but this matter cannot be easily overlooked." He continued, "Lin Ke is truly not simple. The chip technology 2.0 in his hands has a significant impact. If he can hand over this technical project, then the issue would be resolved completely. Fu Yahoo covered her mouth and whispered to her husband, Mr. Wang has arrived. Wait a moment. After the meeting, I'll ask her opinion. If Wang Dongqing can participate, our benefits will be even greater. The meeting today is concluded, the guy in the gray suit announced. Immediately, Han Junli and his wife rushed to Wang Dongqing's side. A voice rang out, Mr. Wang. The wife said, we have discussed some matters and would like to ask for your opinion. A few days ago, I believe you haven't forgotten what happened at the bar, right? What's going on? Are you planning to take action against Lin Ke? Wang Dongqing replied, crossing her arms and glancing at Shen Shu Yi and Lin Ke entering. Han Junli clenched his fist. He said, of course we will not take action against Lin Ke. We want to demand the 2.0 chip technology in his hands as compensation. Therefore, we would like to negotiate one matter with you. Wang Dongqing flatly refused. Our company has no quotas in the semiconductor field, so I will not participate. Hearing this, he continued to persuade. But this is a great opportunity to step into the semiconductor field. Wang Dongqing declined once again. I have known Shen Shu Yi for many years, and I do take her face into account to some extent. Mr. Zhao is still waiting for me, so I will not talk to you two anymore. See you again. Mr. and Mrs. Han Junli could only remain silent, unable to say anything. Upon arriving outside the company, Mr. Shen heard a call. Both Lin Ke and Shen Shu Yi instinctively turned around to see Han Junli and his wife pursuing them right to the outside. He said to Shen Shu Yi, there's something we want to discuss with you too. Are you concerned about it? Of course not, she replied. Then she continued, if there's anything else, just talk to Kiddo. Hearing this, Han Junli was no longer polite and went straight to the point. Lin Ke, regarding our matter, for the sake of my sister-in-law, we won't pursue it any further. However, this situation has greatly affected us. While we may not probe too deeply, we cannot simply ignore it either. He stood facing Lin Ke and said. Lin Ke listened with a headache, but responded calmly with a smile. All right then, just say what you want directly. I'm listening, right? Han Junli frowned and said, it's very simple. We want the 2.0 chip technology in your hands. Upon hearing this, Lin Ke immediately understood the issue, his expression unchanged as he replied, what you're saying is something I can understand. Capitalists don't care about their face. With that pointed remark, Han Junli could no longer hold back, shouting, you better clarify who you are standing in front of. As long as we want it, your Ling Yun Corporation won't last a month. Upon reaching this point, he lowered his voice and continued, we don't intend to exploit anything, nor do we want to threaten you. It's just a matter of the terms of exchange between both parties. Hearing those words, Lin Ke's face darkened. He seriously said, yesterday your son hired thugs to kill me. Are you aware of this? Shen Shu Yi, who had been silent until now, suddenly spoke up in shock. What are you saying? Did they actually go after you? Han Junli's wife angrily shouted, don't you dare lay a hand on our son. She yelled, Lin Ke, stop making up lies to harm others. Lin Ke did not explain further and directly showed evidence on his phone. Han Junli and his wife were left stunned. In the video, the thug confessed, it was Ren Ping Han who asked me to come here and kill you. Lin Ke also did not forget to announce, the person has been put in jail and we have thoroughly investigated the matter. Han Junli was furious, his face turning purple, clenching his fist and grinding his teeth as he said, that bastard. Not wanting to prolong the matter, Lin Ke decisively stated, now that things have come to this point, I don't want to say much more. You can continue to act against me, and I'm prepared for it. But it's best if you pray for your own safety. Lin Ke walked towards the car and opened the door. He cautiously said to Shen Shu Yi, Aunt Shen, let's go. I'm a bit hungry now. Lin Ke, wait. Let's negotiate this properly. Han Junli, regaining his composure, continued to cling to Lin Ke to plead. He spoke through the car window, pleading with Shen Shu Yi, sister-in-law, you can't just stand by and watch. There must be a problem with this. When we get back to the bank, we will deal with them. Shen Shu Yi replied, mainly, this is something I can't manage. This is Lin Ke's personal issue. Han Junli's situation seemed a bit off. Mr. Zhao turned to Wang Dongqing and said, why is he bending over backwards to flatter Lin Ke like this? From their perspective, they could clearly see Han Junli clinging to the car in front, begging. Wang Dongqing, sitting in the passenger seat, replied with a smile, Han Junli, they're turning around. This stance is causing quite a stir. Hearing this, Mr. Zhao couldn't help but wonder, I'm too curious. What on earth did Lin Ke do to keep Han Junli under control? Wang Dongqing crossed his arms over his chest, admiringly said, This man is truly impressive. In the luxurious villa located in the suburbs of the city, Ji King Ren ran out to open the door for Lin Ke. The sensual spaghetti-strap dress accentuated her figure. She smiled and asked, "How was the conference?" Lin Ke stepped inside, took off his jacket, and handed it to Ji King Ren. "It was quite good, with some gains. This time I heard that the real estate industry is about to face difficulties. You should prepare in advance." Ji King Ren smiled gently, took the jacket from his hands, and folded it neatly. "I already knew this day would come, so I have adjusted the company's structure. There's no need to worry." Lin Ke suddenly traced his fingers along her waist, pulling her closer and wrapping his arms around her gently. "I have never been too worried about the Chaoyang Group's business. With GCEO's capabilities, these issues are not obstacles at all." At Lin Ke's flattery, she smiled sweetly and touched his cheek with her finger. "Don't praise me too much. The little money I earn isn't even enough to buy you a company." Ji King Ren turned around, her long legs wrapping around Lin Ke's sturdy waist. He matched her rhythm, supporting her body to keep her from falling. She giggled and embraced Lin Ke's neck, pulling him closer. "After being away for so many days, did you miss me?" Lin Ke kissed Ji King Ren on the lips and gently whispered, "I miss you so much. Originally, there was a meeting tomorrow, but I couldn't suppress the longing in my heart, so I held a meeting all night and came back here." The kiss lasted a long time and ended with soft sighs. Ji King Ren smiled and said, "It seems you really know how to talk. Now that the meeting is over, does the company have any plans?" Lin Ke buried his head in the curve of her neck and replied hoarsely, "It depends on how the superiors arrange it. Primarily, we still focus on photolithography. My layout in the semiconductor industry is already complete. There's nothing else to prepare, just need to see how many benefits will fall into our laps." Ji King Ren was astonished. "How do you have such a good vision, and you've already laid out the semiconductor industry?" At her compliment, Lin Ke just smiled sheepishly. "It was just luck. There won't be such good fortune in the future." Dissatisfied with his answer, she pouted and looked at him with puppy eyes. "Why?" Lin Ke gently laid Ji King Ren down on the bed. He admired her perfect body before him, and his breathing gradually became rapid. He quickly unbuttoned his shirt, a slight smile on his lips. "Because I've used up all my love to meet you." Lin Ke pressed his solid body against Ji King Ren, yearning to kiss her plump red lips. "Maybe I'll be unlucky from now on," he said with a laugh. After leaving Ji King Ren's house, Lin Ke went to the company. In the office, he asked his staff, "How has the company been doing lately?" The male secretary spoke up first. "The photolithography project is progressing very smoothly. So far, there haven't been any major issues." He looked seriously at Lin Ke and continued, "Mr. Dean and Country M has also established a solid foothold. The newly established company has initiated a global procurement plan and is gradually implementing it." Lin Ke intertwined his fingers and turned to the other secretary. "What about Long Sin?" She quickly handed him the document. "The first batch of mobile phones has sold out, but there have been quite a few problems. There are still many issues in building the ecosystem, such as app incompatibility, blue screens, and other related incidents occurring continuously. This has had a certain impact on the brand's reputation." Lin Ke took the report and opened it to read. He asked further, "Has there been a wave of returns?" The secretary frowned as she explained, "No, there hasn't. After all, the VIP co-branding card we offered is not just for decoration. Plus, with such a high-spec phone, $999, people are too lazy to switch." Lin Ke smiled and ordered, "For the phone segment, the two of you should continue studying. The latest phone system must be completed. Don't be afraid to spend money." He placed the report on the table and continued, "There is no need to give out gift cards anymore. The rarer the item, the more valuable it becomes. I still need to rely on this to promote the brand's reputation." The two secretaries replied in unison, "Understood." Lin Ke clenched his fist and said seriously, "In the past few days, I have attended a meeting on the semiconductor industry. This industry will be the next emerging industry. Therefore, the company's next strategic goal is to prevent disruptions from new entrants. They must be eliminated from the start." The male secretary panicked. "Isn't that too risky?" He continued to present, "The higher-ups cannot view Ling Yun Group as the only group. Long Sin domestically cannot handle everything alone." In response to the concerns raised, Lin Ke calmly replied, "Don't worry, I've taken care of it. You two can work comfortably, no need to worry too much." The anxiety of the secretaries gradually transformed into confidence. The two said in unison, "Got it, Mr. Lin." At this moment, in Complete Joy Village, gentle rays of sunshine filled the air and the sky was clear. Lin Ke was standing in a greenhouse in a vegetable planting area. He smiled slightly and thought, "Seasonally, growth will be at least a month ahead of other farms. In 2 months, it should be fully ripe." After thinking, Lin Ke squatted down, reached out, and touched a few weeds below and said, "This wheat has grown quite tall. Does the system not distinguish between enemies and allies? Why is it nurturing weeds too?" Under the blazing sun, his vegetable garden became very lush. Lin Ke stood there looking at it and reminded himself that he needed to buy some herbicide. After that, he went to see Mr. Dao. Mr. Dao cheerfully ate while talking. I haven't seen you for a few days. Lin Ke sat next to Mr. Dao and replied, I went out to take care of some matters and just got back today. He began to talk about the weeds in his garden. Mr. Dao, the weeds in my yard are almost waist high. I want to buy some herbicide. Which brand do you think is good? Hearing this, Mr. Dao explained to Lin Ke, You've already cleared the weeds around your fruit trees. Focus on clearing the weeds, don't worry about it. We also need to buy some. When the time comes, you can bring some back for us. Seeing this, Lin Ke scratched his head, feeling shy, and replied, Don't keep asking for my help, I feel awkward too. Just tell me which type to buy, and I can get it myself. By the way, I also need to make a trip to Shanghai. Mr. Dao saw Lin Ke being so polite and smiled widely, saying, If you have to go to Shanghai, please bring back a few things for us. Consider it a request from Mr. Dao. In the end, Lin Ke and Mr. Dao agreed that Lin Ke would go shopping in Shanghai. Lin Ke slowly stood up and said, Sure, just make a list of everything you need to buy. When the time comes, I will bring it back for both of you. After that, Lin Ke walked out of the greenhouse. He stepped through the gate, and in front of him stood Du Jiao waiting, which surprised him quite a bit. Seeing Lin Ke, Du Jiao became cheerful, her eyes sparkling as she hurried over and said, Lin, you're back. Seeing Du Jiao, Lin Ke looked down at his watch and asked, It's only 4:30. Is school already over this early? Du Jiao shyly tucked her hair behind her ear and replied, Today is Saturday. I don't have classes. But Gu Fi kept calling me, saying he wanted to come and find me. I found it annoying, so I told him I would come here to visit you instead. Hearing this, Lin Ke smiled, feeling a bit embarrassed, and continued, following for so long without giving up. This perseverance is quite commendable. Seeing Lin Ke smile, Du Jiao teased, Lin, don't mock me anymore. I have told him many times, but it hasn't made any difference. After saying that, Du Jiao didn't want to bring up the topic anymore and changed the subject. She said, Let's not talk about him anymore. How did Lin grow this greenhouse? The growth is incredible. Look, the melons are as big as balls. Just as Du Jiao said, Lin Ke's greenhouse was exceptionally fruitful. Each round melon looked fresh and luscious. Receiving praise from Du Jiao, Lin Ke felt quite proud and happy, but he remained very humble. He just replied, It's just some random planting. I don't know why it's like this. Upon hearing this, Du Jiao couldn't help but feel curious. He looked down at the weeds and said, But there are quite a lot of weeds in the greenhouse. You need to buy a lot of herbicides, otherwise they'll take up all the fertilizer. Hearing this, Lin Ke then said, Actually, tomorrow I have no work, so I'm planning to take a trip to Shanghai and buy herbicides. Upon hearing this, Du Jiao quickly asked, Lin, are you going to Shanghai tomorrow? Can you take me with you? Du Jiao became happier than ever. She continued, I want to buy some materials to review for the graduate entrance exam, but the library in the county doesn't have enough types, so I want to go to Shanghai to take a look. Lin Ke didn't mind at all and quickly nodded, replying, Sure, we can go together. Suddenly, there was the sound of footsteps and a voice that interrupted their conversation. The person said, Du Jiao, weren't you supposed to go help your parents with work? The person was Gu Fei. He slowly stepped out, walked closer to where Lin Ke and Du Jiao were talking and asked, Why are you still here? Du Jiao felt a bit uncomfortable upon seeing Gu Fi and simply replied, Lin is here, we're helping out. Gu Fi stood beside her. Du Jiao looked at Lin Ke with an unfriendly expression and continued, I heard yesterday that you were talking to other teachers about wanting to go to Shanghai to buy study materials. Just so happens, I have no plans tomorrow and can drag you there. But Du Jiao paid little attention to him. Just when she intended to decline, she reached out her hand towards Lin Ke and smiled, saying, I just discussed it with Lin. He's also going to Shanghai, so I'll just ride with him. Upon hearing Du Jiao's response, Hu Fi was displeased and his face clearly showed a frown as he said, He might have other things to do, while you just want to buy books. That would probably waste a lot of your time. It would be better to go with me. I have a special car to take you. Seeing Gu Fi so insistent, Du Jiao tried hard to refuse. She said, I promised Lin that I wouldn't go with you. Lin Ke quickly added, making Gu Fi furious as he watched the two of them happily. He said, I happen to be free to drive back in the evening. It only takes 2 hours on the road. You can enjoy the night scenery. At this point, Gu Fi couldn't hold back his anger anymore, raising his fist and shouting, What do you mean? Do you want to take Du Jiao out for the night? What does that mean? On the contrary, Lin Ke didn't care. He turned away and said, The way you say it implies that if I take her out, there's no need to consider the overnight issue, right? Hu Fi felt quite guilty and replied firmly, I'm not as despicable as you. I will rent 2 rooms. Lin Ke walked away but didn't forget to turn his head back to smile and say, "So, who told you I would rent one room?"